right, so this is my third to last review for the season. We have it's called a four-parter. Endgame, final battle essential here. So this was part 2, and then we're gonna have exactly 50. So usually it's between I think sometimes 48, but usually 49 to 51, somewhere in there. So that means the start of March is the new season. Now I have not put a lot of thought if I'm gonna go on and do the next season or not. I mean, I want to do this season because I enjoyed it, and I was getting views to start. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna continue, and still I'm getting views. So I guess if you want me to do, was it King Oger or whatever the next season is called? If you want me to do that, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll think about doing it. But right now, I mean, 3 episodes left, and then again, it might be it. I don't know if I'm gonna do the next series or not, or maybe what I'll do is I'll take like a 6-month break, and then we'll recap the first half of the series. And then I'll do weekly after. But for now, I'm just focused on this series. So there's a lot that happened in this episode. I love this ending. I thought this ending was really well done. We'll get to that, obviously, once we're done talking about everything else. But I thought, when you look at this ending, then you kind of have to go back and look at part 1 and, this whole episode and realize, like, okay, now I see what was going on. Now I see more of the plan here and everything else that's put into it. So we start out this episode, obviously they're retreating. They go back to the cafe after the new Cerebrians just launched this, like, blast attack in the air that just makes everyone, even the Hitotsuki, run away. So they go back to the cafe, kind of discuss, I'm sorry. Before they do that, Don Black splits off. I should mention that. They're on these, like, it's like a mountain type of thing with a bunch of steps and a bunch of flowers all over. They keep popping up in all these different places, and Don Black just kind of like, hey, like, you guys complicate this. I don't want to be a part of this. So he does his own thing, and then they go back and try to discuss a plan and whatnot, and kind of break up from there. And then we'll touch on. Do I want to start with the Sixth Ranger, because the Sixth Ranger didn't have a lot. Let's start with the Sixth Ranger. Let's do that, because again, everyone kind of breaks up. Has their own little adventure here. Then they kind of come back together. Well, they get swallowed up by the monsters. But we'll start with the Sixth Ranger, who just has basically, I think it's one scene, and then he'll come into the final battle here for the Megazord fight. But basically, they're playing Ring Around the Rosie around him. He's there. He's kind of like, well, he's not like this, but he's got his eyes covered. Got to figure out who's behind him and whatnot. And so he does. He figures out it's Rumi, and then everyone starts to vanish again. So he starts moping on the ground, and that's when, the tiger demon that was in him kind of pops up and says, hey, like, I'm real. I've been real the whole time. Like, you got to stop moping around. Like, we have to get out there and fight. Like, come on. So, 600's like, okay, you know what? Let's do this. Let's just merge, become one. So that's where he got his hair slicked back in the trailer last week that we saw. That's where this comes in. Now, I wish they would have done this, and maybe, again, we didn't see really a lot of him in the trailer for this next episode. I would have loved a combined form of, the White Tiger and then his dragon form. I would have loved if they combined. It appears we're just going to get the normal dragon form for him in the next week. At least from what we saw in the trailer, there's only like 3 shots of him in the trailer. I would have loved if they combined it with the tiger form and you have like a combined suit of that. Makes him stronger or whatnot, because now he's combined. Because they teased. He shows up at the end. He does not transform. We only see him as a Megazord. We don't see him transform, to fight the Cerebrians on the ground, the Hitotsuki on the ground. We don't see that at all. He's kind of just off the side watching. So I wish they would have teased something like, hey, like, he's going to have a combined form next week. They don't. And again, maybe he's going to do it and we just don't see it. Now, I get it. Again, we had 2 episodes after this, 3 in total, with including this one. But I get why, it's last 2 episodes. But they introduced stuff for a movie, like a post-season movie. It's like, oh, here's a form for just the movie. And so, like, why can't they do that for the end of this series? I mean, it's not some brand new thing where this is, like, never been done before. Like, there's been series that have done this. So, I think it would have been cool to have that. So, now we get him out of the way. He has the least amount of screen time in this episode. We'll touch on the Natsumi. So, let's go to that one next. So, we see them, Natsumi and Don Black are out in the park. And he's laying on her legs and then just kind of joking around and whatnot. When a police officer comes by, it's like, oh my God, you're the fugitive. He's like, hey, I'm not anymore. He's like, okay, hey, I need backup here. So he runs away with Natsumi. They go hide. And then they find the posters, and was it 7 billion yen or something like it was a lot. Like, I don't know what it is to American money, but apparently that's a lot. When you have million or billion on the end, that's a lot of money. So point is, he's finds that, and he's like, oh, that's what Kaito meant by me having a bunch of problems, and just I'm a bigger fugitive now. I'm worth more. So Natsumi kind of sees that, and she's like, what the heck is going on? They try to start to run away. White Cerebrian pops in and goes, hey, like, come on, help me, follow me, I'll get you guys out of here. So they kind of avoid the cop car, hiding in an alleyway. And so then she's like, the White Cerebrian's like, hey, like, thank you. Don Black gets it all first to say, thank you for helping us. But she's like, hey, no, like, I should be the one thanking you for saving my life. So you kind of see Natsumi's like, what? What's going on here? And so Don Black's like, hey, I don't want to deal with this. I just don't care. So he takes Natsumi. They go back to his house. Start having, I think it was just noodles or whatever. And, Natsumi's like, hey, like, why are you a fugitive? Why is she talking, like, what's going on with you and her? And so he's like, it's really hard to explain. And then he kind of brings up, like, do you remember anything about Mio? Do you know anything about Mio, that name or anything? And she's like, how do you know that? And so, she starts saying, like, hey, like, I don't know, did she ever say it? I don't know if she ever told him, but basically she's like, hey, like, I wanted to be, a beauty list or whatever it's called, work in a salon essentially. And, that's, I kind of had this dream. I was doing that, married to, someone else and whatnot. And so, Don Black's in a sense, like, thinking, kind of changed her life and made her dreams essentially come true. So, we have that weird thing where, again, they're kind of introducing this last second, where now it's like, okay, so all these bestials that are on Earth or even around the universe or whatnot are basically living out lives that people wanted to live out, but they just couldn't because they were just dreams to them before. So I think that's really interesting. I think that's really something that I didn't see coming. I thought it'd just be like, hey, like, we're just gonna copy you and just go on our merry way. But no, they kind of added some depth here, so I really enjoyed that. So that was basically them. Then they're kind of just kind of hanging out, and he doesn't really pop up too much until he gets absorbed by one of the Hatatsuki. In the second fight, there's 3 fights. The very start, we have a fight in the middle. Which again, we'll touch on the fight in the middle. I just want to go through what everyone's doing. So while Don Black and Natsumi are going around being chased by the police, Don Yellow and the Brown Cerebrian are in the cafe, standing in the cafe, talking about how the manga. Hey, like, I want you to become a great manga artist, the best of all time and whatnot. And so Brown Cerebrian's like, hey, I can't pay for this. And so Don Yellow's like, hey, I'll do it. I got you. I'll put it on my tab. I'll take care of it. And he's like, no, you know what? No. You're not paying for anything until you become number 1. So Kaito's like, okay, fine, then you can just get a job here. And so we see Sonai, the blue Cerebrian, and then the white Cerebrian pop in, and they're so confused as to what's happening. And so, he kind of tells them, Brown Cerebrian's like, hey, like, come here, sit down, we're going to order you. He's smiling now. They get his order. Don Blue pops in when everyone's like, what the heck is going on here? And Brown Cerebrian tips I think it was like a banana parfait or something like that onto the clothes of Don Blue. He's like, that was not intentional, was it? It was though, but he got another one. He, cleaned him up, took care of him, and just, this time he was able to eat the banana parfait. And so then we have a shot of them. I believe this was before everyone came in. I'm kind of going out of order with this, but I thought this was really cool. So this conversation, the Brown Cerebrian and Don Yellow are kind of sitting having a conversation. Again, this is before everyone came in, and Brown Cerebrian was like, hey, I sealed up Don Purple, the sword, the Don Mercimane, whatever it is, with your manga because I wanted to kind of soothe his soul. I wanted to try to help him out. So we're adding layers upon layers upon layers on it. I love this episode. This episode, a lot of plot, a lot of just, like, it was really fun. And we got a lot of explanations for stuff. And this could have just been a throwaway line. This could have just been, something that's like, okay, who cares? Why is there manga on this? Just kind of seal them. Who cares? But they took time to explain this. This is why I have the problem with Don Black just suddenly becoming a member. This is why it peeps me off so bad. Because when they're good, when these writers are good, they can be amazing. The actors can do their thing. But then you can have dumbass things. It's like, oh my God, Don Black's a part of the team. He's, we figured that out now. It's like, really? When you're on your game, you're on your game. That's why it pees me off. Because something just like this, I thought was handled so well done. I thought this was, this is one of my favorite episodes. So, we got a little extra detail. We still don't know where the sword is. He still hasn't popped up in 4 episodes, I think, 3 episodes. So, I enjoyed this. It was so well done. So, soothing the soul and whatnot, kind of just like saying, hey, like, your manga's that good where, it can probably help anyone. And, it's really, really touching and whatnot. So, that's their thing. And then, I guess that Don Blue's kind of looped in with, everyone in the cafe too. So, again, Don Red and Don Pink are both sucked up. it's so, they keep talking about that too. It's so funny. But they're sucked up by the Hitotsuki. So, we get this really, cool, even with the Hitotsuki, like, it was so well done. Even them, they're not fighting anymore. They're kind of teaming up. They're loving each other now. They're understanding, even though, again, they are monsters and whatnot. They're, they're greed. I guess that's the one thing is it's like, okay, well, the greed didn't really affect them too much because they're, getting back together, but they're still monsters. Point is, though, they, they're loving each other. They're not, they're not out to try to end people and suck up a bunch of people anymore. They're trying to focus on them. They end up getting caught by the by the New Cerebrians, which we'll get into that. But the middle fight here is they come together, and the New Cerebrians are like, hey, we can't have that. So they shoot them with these darts, which makes them kind of go crazy and become angry. So they start sucking up people again, because they're not doing what, the normal monsters are supposed to do. So everyone pops up. Don Black and Don Yellow are the only ones that get sucked up in this fight. And so they all have to retreat. So it's the 3 Cerebrians, and then Don Blue is all that's left. Kaito doesn't fight at all in this episode. Which, by the way, what is he doing? Come on, man. Get Kaito in here to help out. I would have totally been fine if, Kaito got surprise attacked and got sucked up too. Because it's like, okay, well, we have the 3 Cerebrians here that are going to try to take over, but it's like Kaito's still there. He could still take them on. Like, he could probably beat them. So, it would have been nice to kind of have him taking out the story too. But I get it. The way, the ending here, they wanted, a shot of all 9 together. So I get that. But anyway, so those 2 get sucked up. And then we're left with those 4. They go back to the cafe again. And they're like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do here? Sonai grabbed Toro's Don Red's sword at the start. And so they made this plan of, hey, like, let's use this. Let's just attack those Hitotsuki with the other 3 Cerebrians distracted. So they come up with this plan. They go to this warehouse. 4 on 3. 3 of them get sucked up. So then Sonai's the last one left. Because Don Blue's like, hey, like, I'm no good with swords, so you're going to have to do it. So he sacrifices himself. And so this is where they were counting on the New Cerebrians to get cocky and just, and it happens. And what happens is they all blindfold themselves. And they're like, okay, well, we can't see you or anything, so we're just going to try to run around in this area here and try to, kill you ourselves. And so Sonai's like, okay, well, plan worked. He goes, he slashes the 2 Hitotsuki, who, again, they're just coming together. They're hugging, embracing each other. So it's just a one-shot, just, whoop! Everyone comes out, back to normal. The monsters grow giant, and then we get a 9... Well, really, because Sonai was already transformed. But we get all 9 together, transformed and whatnot. They all rush in, start to take on the 3 New Cerebrians who realize, like, hey, like, we got too cocky. Whoops, that's on me. That's my bad. So they start fighting, and the monsters, who, again, are giant, are like, hey, like, don't forget about, we're here too. Don't forget about us. And so they grow. They form the Megazord, grow giant. We see a Six Ranger jumps in, who again, he was just standing on the sidelines, as I mentioned before, and it's like, I'm getting in that Megazord battle too. And so he tells Toro, it's like, hey, like, I'm new. I'm a new me. I'm better this time. He goes, he one-shots one of the Hatatsuki, and Toro's like, okay, well, he he glows full gold, kind of just like an attack to kind of like the solar flare. If you ever watch Dragon Ball, it's kind of like the solar flare, with Krillin and whatnot. Kind of blinds everyone, and then he does his attack ungolded, back to the normal colors of the Megazord. And again, it's basically one shots from both. But again, you got to take care of that with monsters that, you can get sucked up in, and then it's like, okay, well, now we have nothing that could, get us that big again or something like that if one of them, one part of them got sucked up. So they took care of him really quickly. And then that's, it basically ends it. We see the, I'm going to say our Cerebrians. I'm just going to say that. We see them take care of the new Cerebrians who just end up fleeing. And then the episode, this is where it got good. The episode ended, where, let's see, Don Yellow, Don Blue, all three Cerebrians. I think Kaito was in the background too. Oh yeah, and Don Pink. So everyone there, so Don Black and Don Red were outside the cafe, and we'll talk about that in a second. But they all kind of start saying, hey, like, good job, you did, good plan, it worked out to perfection. Danielle's like, hey, like, that's a great manga idea right there. And so they all kind of compliment each other, and Don Blue's, they all kind of compliment Don Blue, says, hey, like, you were the leader, you helped us get through this. What a job, like, good job. And he's like, no, you know what, this is all on Sonai. He, came up with the plan, and we executed it to perfection. And Sonai's like, no, like, it's teamwork. Like, we all worked together. We all did this perfectly. I got chilled. Like, that I love that scene. I thought that scene was really well done. I thought the acting was perfect in that scene by them. And then, they're all kind of, again, they're happy discussing and whatnot. And then we see a shot of Toro, Don Red, again, sitting right outside of the cafe, who's smirking while he's like, hey, it worked out. Everything worked out in the end. And so we see Don Black kind of behind him. It's like, hey, okay, that was your plan the entire time. You wanted to get sucked up so that everyone else would, come up with a plan to help, beat the monsters, beat the Cerebrians and whatnot. And so Toro's like, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't know. I'm just sitting here. And so Don Black's like, hey, like, I'm not the only one that noticed. So he walks away. Sonai pops out, and then they grin at each other. Don Red and Sonai just grin at each other. And it's like, hey, like, he knew too. And again, I thought that was perfect. I thought, then you have to go back and watch part one again. And it's like, okay, now it makes sense, because there was a line of, when Toro said, when Sonai said, hey, like, we want to join the DonBrothers, and Toro found that interesting, kind of dig more into that. It's like, okay, well, he was probably planning that since they were having that conference at, like, basically the whole episode. And so he probably knew, like, if I can get out of the equation here, it can better the team. It can be, like, hey, like, yes, my DonBrothers don't like him, but hey, if we can get them in here, we can help each other, we can save the world, we can stop these new Cerebrians. So you have to really dig deep into this. Now, to be honest, if they extended this an extra episode, I get there's 4 parts here, but if this ending was part 3, it's like, okay, now we have 3 parts here. We know why, all the teamwork and whatnot worked. It's like, okay, now we have the whole team together for, the final battle in part 4, which again is what we're going to get in part 3 here. But, if this is how the series ended, I would have been like, oh, you know what? I'm good. We're good. That's one of the best endings. That's one of my favorite endings. But, we still have 2 more episodes. It's just, it's a bunch of fighting around the city with the Cerebrians and whatnot. More teamwork, more of them together. Again, we see like 3 shots of Don Dragon, the Sixth Ranger, just in his dragon form. So nothing, I think it would have been cool, especially because they kind of built that up. That's been his arc to kind of, combine and become one. So there's still episode 50. I'm not going to say, we're done, because the next week is not the final episode. So maybe we get it the very end of next week, or the trailer shows like we're starting out at episode 50 with like this new combined Don Dragon Tiger or whatever. So again, that's just wishful thinking. But I thought I love this episode. I thought, you know, so many executions were perfected, and that is why I am so harsh on the Don Black situation that happened early on in the series. It's, again, when they can be good, they can be good. So it sucked that turned into a gag. But I'm excited to see how these last 2 episodes turn out. You know, if we get more of this, This might become one of my favorite series if we're ending on such a high note here. But again, we haven't stuck the landing yet. Still 2 more episodes to go, so I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. But again, it's next week. It's just going to be, you know, mainly fighting. We're going to, there was one shot of Natsumi and the Cerebrian White kind of thinking like, hey, maybe something's going to happen with them. You know, again, that's probably going to be the end of the episode possibly. But I'm very excited. So let me know down below. Again, 1, do you want me to do King Oger, whatever the next series is? 2, what are your thoughts on this episode? 3, what are your thoughts on the season as a whole, as we're, again, 2 episodes away from wrapping up? So, for now, like the video, share the video around, don't forget to subscribe, and I'm out of here. Peace.